Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Continuing in volume 2 of Riyad as-Saliheen, book number 11, the book of jihad. Narrated Abu Qatada radiyallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "He who likes Allah to deliver him from the calamities of the day of resurrection, let him either give respite to a debtor or grant him remission of loan in straitened circumstances." Muslim. One meaning of the word falyun nafis is to defer demanding payment of the amount from the one who may be in straitened circumstances until such a time when he has sufficient means to pay his debt. Another meaning is to relieve the debtor of the trouble he is in by giving him some money so that he can settle his debt with it. Such sympathetic attitude will save that person from the tensions of the day of judgment when everyone will be tense with worries and anxieties. Narrated Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "There was a person who used to loan money to the people, and he used to say to his servant, 'When an insolvent person comes to you, show him leniency so that Allah may forbear our faults.' So when he met Allah, i.e., when he died, Allah forgave him." Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Show him leniency implies three things in the present context: polite dealing, extension in the period of payment, and remittance of the debt. All these qualities are desirable and praiseworthy in Sharia. The incident reported in this hadith relates to some person of a community of the ancient time, but it is such an illustrious example that it was liked by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he recommended it to his followers through his advice and practice. This action is certainly a means of winning the pleasure of Allah as well. Narrated Abu Mas'ud al-Badri radiyallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "A person from amongst the people who lived before you was called to account by Allah on the day of judgment. No good deeds were found in his credit except that he, being a rich man, had financial dealings with people and had commanded his servants to show leniency to those who were in straitened circumstances. Upon this, Allah the Exalted and Majestic said, 'I am more worthy of this attribute, so overlook his fault.'" Muslim. What's called to account by Allah on the day of judgment is in the nature of a news of the day of judgment, which was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and which he quoted as an illustration. What it signifies is that on the day of judgment, Almighty Allah will deal with such people generously and forgive their sin, because forgiveness depends on the quality of action done by the person in this world. Narrated Hudhayfa radiyallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "A slave of Allah whom he has endowed with wealth will be brought before him. Allah will ask him, 'What did you do in the world?' They cannot conceal anything from Allah. He will say, 'O my Lord, you endowed me with your wealth. I used to enter into transaction with people, and it was my nature to be lenient to the solvent one. I used to give respite to those who were in straitened circumstances.' Whereupon Allah will say, 'I am more worthy than you to do this, so forgive my slave.'" Uqba bin Amr and Abu Mas'ud al-Ansari radiyallahu anhuma said, Thus was heard from Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Narrated Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, He who gives respite to someone who is in straitened circumstances or grants him remission, Allah will shelter him in the shade of his throne on the day of judgment when there will be no shade except his shade. At-Tirmidhi. On the day of judgment, the sun will come very close to people's heads, who will then be badly sweating to the extent that sweat will reach up to their ankles or knees or shoulders. Some will be totally overwhelmed with their sweat, depending on their sin. Those people who will have the privilege of getting in the shade of the throne will be then very fortunate indeed. Among such fortunate people, there will be a person who used not only to give loans to the poor and the needy, but also gave them convenience in the payment of their debts, or would forgive a part of the loan or all of it. This hadith has food for thought for the affluent. Nowadays, people usually lend money to people of their own status and do not like to give loan to the poor because they think that it is difficult to recover from them. As far as remitting a loan is concerned, we have totally forgotten this precept. In any case, to refuse loan to a poor when a person is in a position to lend money to him is hateful. To lend money to a needy and then to show him leniency in its payment or to remit it altogether is a praiseworthy act, the best reward for which will be given to him on the day of judgment. May Allah enable us to be generous to the poor on this account. Narrated Jabir radiallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam purchased a camel from me and gave more price than its weight. Al-Bukhari and Muslim. In the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for a long time afterwards, all business transactions were made by means of dirham and dinar. The former was a gold coin, while the latter was a silver one. The price of the camel, which was settled in gold or silver, was paid by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in weight, and he paid it in excess of the agreed amount. Narrated Abu Safwan Suwaid bin Qais radiyallahu anhu, Makhrama al-Abdi, and I procured some drapery from Hajar and brought them to Mecca. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to us and bargained with us for some trousers, and we sold them to him. We had a person who weighed the stuff of cloth in order to fix the price. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, "Weigh out and add a little to it." Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi. This hadith highlights the desirability on part of the customer of paying in excess of the agreed price. The seller is induced to give more than the agreed quantity, weight, number of goods, etc., against the settled price. This is a step ahead of justice. That is ihsan, which was very salutary effect on society. On the contrary, if people are in the habit of encroaching up others' right, it will doubtless create jealousy and enmity, which are ruinous to the society. Wallahu alam, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.